morning, class. The topic for today's discussion is about oil spills and the cause, the course, and the conclusion. And before we plunge on to the topic as such, to make the class lively, I'd like to give you a small story. It so happened that, as the story goes, in the court of King Krishnadeva, the ministers were all come, like robbery or present day to those. And the justice of the court, Kanathur, found out this, and he told the king that all your ministers are corrupt. The king got annoyed and told him, how do you do that? Then he said, you arrange for a big vessel to be kept in a dark room, and in the morning, before the sun rises, ask all your ministers to drop just 1 liter of milk into the vessel. And the same order was given to all the ministers. And next day morning, when they went and saw the vessel was full of water. It's because everybody thought everyone is going to put 1 liter of milk. What happens if I just put 1 liter of water? So, thinking of that, everyone had added water and the vessel was containing nothing but water. The moral of the story is the same thing is happening in our marine working industry. Everybody thinks that if I pump out just a few gallons of oil, is it going to be distributed or is it going to affect the marine atmosphere and the kind of environmental conditions? So, that is what is happening. Like the ministers of King Mr. Devaraya spoke, everybody is pumping their own few liters or few gallons of oil, and the oceans have literally become a receptacle or a dustbin of oil. And the main emphasis of this class today is we're going to study what are the causes due to which the ocean is getting polluted, the seas are getting polluted with oil, and what happens if the oil is pumped into the water, seawater, and then what are the latest conclusions or what are the latest regulations which are trying to minimize, if not do away with it completely. Therefore, at the right hands, we start with what are the causes why the oil is getting spilled into the sea. There are 3 ways for oil to enter the oceans. The methodology by which the sea is getting polluted is classified into main 3 ways. One is the natural process. The second one is the standard operations. And the third one, the most serious one, is the tanker casualties. See, in the natural process, the marine seepages, about 20,000 to 2 lakh tons per year, the oil seeps into the sea. And then the sediment erosion reaches about 5,000 to 50,000 tons per year. These are the natural process due to leakages from the sea as well as from the oil rigs and the rest of the installations. And then the standard operations leading to seepage is intentional discharge. About, you can see how many tons per year, more than 10,000 tons per year. This is intentional discharge. Probably this could be unintentional discharge, but this is the intentional discharge. That is willful, negligent, or wanton pumping out of the oil into the sea. And the third one is the tanker casualties, where when tankers enter into accidents like grounding, collision, and floundering, then we have, so these are the 3 ways for the oil to enter into oceans. And among standard operations, even operations like bunkering or STS operation, ship-to-ship operations. These kind of leakages, they lead to all this. So these are the three ways due to which the oil enters the ocean. So now we have seen how the oil enters the water. We will see what are the effects once the oil enters the oceans or the seas. What is the effect or what harmful effect happens to the sea because of this. The natural properties of oil and water, when a spill or a dump occurs, the oil is immediately spread along the surface of the ocean rapidly. So it spreads because the visibility between the oil that is spilled and the ocean depends upon many other factors like the density of oil, the quality of oil, the quantity of oil, and the reason for discharge, such other things. Anyway, when a spill occurs, the oil spreads fast on the ocean surface rapidly. And within 24 hours, the spill becomes weathered, which means or exposed to the elements of nature, causing about half the oil to evaporate and oxidize into the atmosphere. So half the oil gets evaporated probably due to the underwater volcanic effects or due to the exposure to the sun. Then the weathered oil is then emulsified and condensed into a material called moss, which then sinks just below the surface of water. Therefore, after the spillage, after 24 hours of getting weathered, then it gets converted as a moss. The moss then collects into large globes of oil under the surface and floats in the photoid zone, blocking sunlight, the means of photosynthesis. As everybody is aware, the sunlight is required for photosynthesis. But then, when this moss blocks the passage of the sunlight into the water, then the photosynthesis effect is spoiled to the organisms that live there and causing them to perish. So they are not able to get oxygen and actually they end up in death. The moss then floats with ocean currents until it reaches a coastal area where blocks of moss break apart and spread over the coastal area, severely damaging the natural environment. And as we all know, the oceans, the seashores, are places of entertainment, places of relaxation, places of tourism importance, and places where locals as well as foreigners come there to relax and enjoy. And that time we see dead organs or dead animals floating in the water that deeply affects their peace and tranquility. Therefore, these are the environmental effects. Next we see what is the shoreline recovery. The geography and the topography of the coastal area directly affects how quickly the area will recover from the contact with the oil spill. The higher energy that coastline receives, the faster that it will be cleansed of the oil damage, and naturally less energy that the coastline receives, the shower that will be impossible to recover. The sensitivity reflects this energy level. The higher the sensitivity, the higher will be the energy. There you will see the shoreline on the x-axis, shoreline on the x-axis, and the sensitivity to heavy crude oils in the y-axis, and different colors have been given for you to understand how the exposed tidal flows, how the gravel beaches are being affected, the sheltered rocky coasts are being affected, sand beaches, rocky beaches, sheltered tidal flats, how they are being affected. So you can understand how is the recovery being done on the shoreline. Now, once the spill has happened, the next logical step to be carried out will be to clean up. And this cleanup, there are certain standard procedures or methodology which is being followed worldwide. We see some of them. For the cleanup, we have mechanical containment, chemical and biological cleaning, and then dispersants and gelling agents. You see, in the mechanical containment, mechanical devices like booms, barriers, skimmers, and natural synthetic solvent material are used. See, booms are floats that are spread over the area of spill, thereby preventing the contamination from passing on to uncontaminated area. So, and the barriers are again obstructions which are put in the path of the oil, therefore the oil doesn't pollute any further area. And skimmers, as the name implies, is used mainly to skim the top surface of water, and with that recovering the oil slick also. And it could be visible due to the sheen or discoloration or green. Then there are synthetic or natural solvent materials which absorb the oil and thereby may enhance your efficiency of cleaning and recovery. And second one is the chemical and biological methods. They are used in conjunction with the mechanical method. In the sense, you spread the booms, you put the barriers, and before you use the skimmers, you could use some of the chemical or biological agents so that you are permitting or allowing or enhancing the agglomeration of smaller particles into bigger quantities and bigger sizes so that the recovery is much faster. And then we have the dispersants and gelling agents. The dispersants, as the names imply, is to disperse the concentrated spill. And when it is dispersed, it will be easier for you to recover it. And then gelling agents are agents which are used to gel the oil particles so that they are made into an aqueous colloidal solution where it will be easier for you to recover. So cleanup involves all this, but all this could be avoided if you basically avoid the spillage. And as the old adage goes, prevention is always better than cure. These are all the curing methods. But as I said earlier, as I emphasize once again, the prevention is much better and good practice to avoid the pollution. Okay. The physical methods in cleaning up shorelines, they are including the evaporation due to the sunlight, oxidation by mixing with the natural air, and biodegradation, biological degradation of the oil, and then piping with absorbent materials, and then pressure washing, racking, and bulldozing. And this, as you could see, the oil already spilled is collected and put in containers or put in plastic bags so that they can be transported, taken to shore where they could be safely dispersed by way of incineration. You may be wondering why we are doing it. We are taking it to the shore so that they could be incinerated, thereby getting it covered before it pollutes the sea any further. Okay. Now, rescuing wildlife. You see, there are a lot of aquatic animals in the sea, on the surface, as well as under the sea. As a matter of fact, if you go through the geographic channels, they will tell you that there are more animals in the sea and under the sea than all the terrestrial or shore-living animals. Therefore, there are a lot of living beings under the sea, and they definitely get affected when the oil spill happens. So, how do we go about rescuing wildlife which is in the sea? The scare tactics are used to keep the wildlife away from the area. Propane scare cans, floating dummies, helium-filled balloons. You see, once the oil spill has happened, in order that the innocent aquatic animals from coming and either inhaling or ingesting the polluted oil, There are many methods which we follow. First is, we scare them away. We drive them away. We literally say, we draw them. We throw them away. Or we make them scatter from the area. For that, we have cans filled with propane, which will scare them. And we could also put floating dummies. You might have seen the paddy fields and all that. When the birds come to pick the ripe grains or the produce, we put scarecrows and dummies there. Similarly, we put floating dummies which would prevent the animals from coming near the areas where the spillage happened. And then we have helium-filled balloons. Such big balloons scare away the aquatic animals, which might have a tendency to inadvertently or accidentally come in contact with the polluted oil water and thereby getting affected. The second one is cleaning process of birds. Once these birds, like your albatross, seagull, these kind of things, once they get affected, in spite of all your precautions, if they have either ingested or if they have got drenched in the oily mixture, like what happened in the Gulf War, then how do we recover them? One is oil flushed from the eyes and intestines. Animal lovers, they catch these animals and give them a bath and give them a flushing with the full body, and they try to flush out the oil first, and then stomach coating is cleaned or medication is administered and wiped with absorbent cloths. Thereby, the animals could be clean. Birds must then preen and realign their feathers to restore them to the original structure, helping them to become waterproof. Perhaps you could ask me, what is preening? Preening is like what we do every day, make ourselves look smart or clean. Same way, the birds, once they come in contact with this oil mixture, they try to clean the feathers with their own beak and by flapping. And they want to clean, and then they realign their feathers because the feathers are clogging with the oil, and then restore their original structure and helping them to become waterproof. Must pass the waterproof test, ability to float and repel water. These are all the rescuing methods for the wildlife which could accidentally come into contact with the oil spill. Okay. Marine mammal rescue and cleanup. See, in the last slide, we talked about mainly the birds. Now we're going to talk about the mammals. The ones that give birth to the younger ones and feed them with milk. Pinnipeds are a group of animals like walruses, arbor seals, and sea lions, and fur-bearing marine animals, sea otter and fur seals. These kind of mammals, they are wiped clean and kept warm and dry. Sometimes a fine detergent is used to help to make the oil, and they are even washed. Their faces are washed with the milk, and given medications to coat stomach and allow to clean themselves. Okay. These are all the methods by which we try to rescue mammals. But again, once again, let me repeat my old request. All these things need not be done had we not polluted the sea in the first case. Therefore, again, the point of emphasis is prevention is always better than cure. And this is the animal rescue. Now we see what are the international regulations on intentional discharge of oil into the ocean. When you want to intentionally pump out, what are the conditions that are being imposed? Tankers used to discharge oil water mixture into the ocean prior to the arrival of the boats to clean the cargo tanks. That means, see, tankers, they carry a variety of different grades of oil. Therefore, in order that the new cargo, what they are taking, doesn't get contaminated or polluted with the remnants of the old cargo, the standard practice of the tankers is to clean and get rid of the older residues and some of the residues maybe in the form of a clingage, which could have been clinging to the walls. Therefore, they have to be completely clear so that the incoming cargo doesn't get polluted with the existing cargo. Even at just 0.4% of the total cargo, this would mean about 400 tons of oil discharged into the ocean per voyage. And you can understand how many voyages would be and how many tons would be intentionally pumping in. This added up to 1 lakh plus tons of oil discharged per year. Since 1950s, there have been regulations based on intentional discharges. What are the limits on discharges? Within 50 miles, coastal zones, and on special protected areas, only clean ballasts. See, clean ballasts are discharged that produce no visible sheen or trace of oil on water surface may be discharged. Only some of those clean ballasts can be discharged. Outside this zone, discharges would be less than 60 liters of oil per mile. And here, this mine is the nautical mine, not the terrestrial mine. And no more than 1 by 15,000 of the cargo will be discharged per voyage. These are all the limits on discharges. And first two limitations enforced by aerial and naval surveillance programs. That means during the daytime, the aerial reconnaissance is done by aircraft hovering above you, and in the nights we have infrared photography. Therefore, some of the smart Charlies who try producing it in the dark of the night, pitch of the night, especially on the new moon day and all that, or full moon day, whatever be the convenience, thinking that no one is watching. Now, the satellite you are hovering above, unseen by you, but they keep seeing you, and they are taking infrared photograph, so nobody can escape. Because when the satellite takes an aerial photograph of a village, then they completely take a photograph of the profile of the ship, the weight of the ship, and the trace of the oil spill. And therefore, there are every chances that any culprit can be pinpointedly arrested the moment he does any intentional discharge. Okay? Therefore, the first two limitations are enforced by aerial and naval surveillance program. Detecting state and courts of tanker flag state respectively have prosecution jurisdiction. Once you are caught, you are hauled into the court and they will be heavily penalized. Of late, the prosecution limits have gone to such extent, they say the vessel is suffering from an unlimited liability. Translated in the local language, it means mumange enough. That means whatever be the amount the court pronounces, if it says 1 million, you have to offer 1 million. If it says 5 million, 5 million. You can't be arguing in the court. Therefore, the regulations and the punishments have become very, very strict. Therefore, please make it a point never to try any quixotic discharges out at sea. And the third limitation, detected upon arrival of a clean tank by inspectors in oil exporting states. Prosecution takes place in the detective or flag state courts. That means prior loading, the cleanliness of the tanks are inspected in the oil major exercises. Once you start sailing, you will also want to know about oil major. That means on this side, before loading, somebody comes and inspects, and on that side, before discharging, somebody comes and inspects. Therefore, you are subject to scrutiny at both ends, on the loading end as well as the discharging end. Therefore, nobody is going scot-free. So, there is no chance for escaping, because as I said earlier, prior loading, the loading party arranges a survey, and before discharging, the discharging party arranges a survey, and in between you have this aerial and naval surveillance. Therefore, do not fall prey and Don't be living in a fool's paradise, thinking that no one is watching, and let me add my own water into the vessel, like how the minister thereby tried. Okay. Okay, now required installation of equipment under the order of the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution of Ships, Mammal, by which we are all very much aware now. Tankers are required to install equipment that prevent tankers from using their cargo tanks for ballast. That means there is no chance for mixing when heavy material is placed in the hull of a ship to enhance stability. Therefore, the cargo tanks are prevented from carrying ballast and uses crude oil rather than seawater for washing down the tanks. That means nowadays we have systems like TOW or crude oil washing operations, wherein as the cargo is getting discharged, a part of the cargo itself is taken, pressurized, and thrown against the engines. Therefore, the sediments or the tendency of the heavier material to settle down on the bottom, which would be leading to the formation of a sediment, is done away with. So, tankers built before 1980 must have at least one of these technologies installed. Tankers built between 1990 and 1982 must have segregated ballast tanks. The first technology installed. Tankers built after 82 must have both technologies installed. I mean, segregated ballast tanks are separated. I mean, they do not carry any contaminated ballast. So, segregated ballast tanks and then clean ballast tanks are now enforced. Okay, now we'll see what are the major incidents. We'll see some of the case accidents. Okay, we'll see some case studies. In 1978, Amet Cadiz, 2,20,000 tons. Amet Cadiz, and then 1979, Atlantic Express, 1,60,000 tons. That is here. And then Delhi Canyon, that is one of the major ones, wherein 1,00,000, almost 20,000 tons was done here in the English Channel. And then the Prayer, other tanker, in 1993, it split about 85,000 tons, again here. And then another tanker by name Emrdc, 72,000 tons. And 1989, Exxon Valdez, 38,800 tons. That was what happened in the Alaska Sea. Okay, therefore Exxon Valdez in Alaska. This is Milford, this is Shetland Isles, this is in UK, this is in Tobago, this is in Guinea. So these are all the major recorded oil spills. Okay, so we'll specifically see one classic case of Exxon Valdez. On March 24, 1989, shortly after midnight, the oil tanker Exxon Valdez, see this was belonging to the Exxon shipping, Exxon tankers. They stuck a BB in Prince William Sound, Alaska. That means it went and hit against the reef, spilling more than 11 million gallons of crude oil. The spill was the largest in U.S. history. Many factors complicated the cleanup efforts following the spill. The size of the spill and its remote location, accessible only by helicopter and boat, made government and industry efforts difficult. It happened in such a kind of a remote place. Even approach by other vessels became difficult. Only the boats and helicopter could access, not bigger vessels. Help explain. Cleanup methods. Three methods were ignored in the effort to clean up the Exxon Valdez cleanup. First was burning. What was floating on the top of the surface, they burned it off. And then mechanical cleanup, which we have already seen by steamers, by booms, by barriers, etc. And chemical dispersals, again, we have already seen using gels and dispersals and biodegradable materials. You could actually see the people struggling to clear. And this is the boom. This is the boom. And people are working the boom. And they effectively yeah. Okay, aftermath. What had happened after that? In the aftermath of the Exxon Valdez incident, the US Congress passed the Oil Pollution Act of 1990 which required the Coast Guard to strengthen its regulation on oil tank vessels and oil tank owners and operators. Today, tank hulls provide better protection against spills resulting from a similar incident, and communications between vessel captains and vessel traffic centers have improved to make it safer sailing. And the latest regulation led to the introduction of double hull tankers, wherein there is a hull within hull, and the interspace between the inner hull and outer hull contain the ballast water. Therefore, should there be any unfortunate accident, grounding or collision, when the outer hull gets ripped, it's only the water that's going to mix with water, and it prevents the direct contact with the oil cargo from coming into the sea. Okay, so I presume all of you must have understood the seriousness of the oil pollution, the effect, methodology for cleaning, how the aquatic animals suffer, and what are the regulations regarding discharge, what are the methodologies for cleaning up, and what are the major casualties that are already occurred. So, any doubts, any points, or anything which is not understood, please ask me and we will answer your questions. Alright, there are no queries. I presume that all of you have understood the seriousness and the impact of oil pollution, and make sure that no pollution from your side. Alright? Thank you, and wish you all the best.